I'd like to welcome to the dais our student athletes from University of Minnesota. To my immediate left, senior guard Dupree McBrayer. My far left, junior guard Amir Coffey. This time you have a question, please raise your hand. Going to start on the left side, second row.
Amir, when this team was sort of at its low point late in the season, 7-10 in conference, and from that point on, you seem to have taken your game to a new level. Did you feel like at that point the team needed someone to lift it to get where it needed to go?
No, not really. I just knew we had to stay the course and keep playing. We didn't really change anything for offensive schemes or defensive schemes. We just kept playing hard. Some of those games that we were losing, they were like 1-2 point games. So, we were close, but we just had to, overcome those losses, just push through.
On the right side aisle.
Amir, Eric Olson with the Associated Press. Playing Michigan State, good thing or bad thing? And what do you remember about that first meeting?
We're going to be ready for anybody that is put up against us, so I would say it's a good thing. We're happy to play Michigan State or Bradley. The first time at their place, our offense just wasn't clicking. They had some good defensive possessions on us. And, on the defensive side, we weren't rebounding very well. They had a lot of second chance points, and then we were pretty bad in transition. So we're going to sharpen up on those three categories and be ready for tomorrow.
Stay on the right side of the aisle.
Chris Solari from the Detroit Free Press. Guys, the Big Ten hasn't had a matchup like this in the history of the NCAA tournament, especially this early, and since it's expanded to 64 teams. After the conference schedule, I guess, first of all, how much of a grind was 20 games this year for you guys? And second of all, do you think it's fair that the Big Ten should be matched up this early in the tournament?
Start with Amir and then go to Dupree.
We don't really try to get into that. However, the NCAA tournament does the seeds, and the matchup is how they do it. We have no control over that, so we just have to be ready for whoever we're matched up against. So, we try not to get into that.
Same thing as Amir said. We're not really worried about who we're playing or how the seeding was, but we're just ready to go out there and play hard.
Staying on the left side, second row.
Dupree, Coach Pitino talks a lot about how this team doesn't really have a pulse. Is that something that this unit takes pride in, that it doesn't get rattled too easily? You're not too overly emotional?
Yeah, I would say, he's the one who's usually, getting on us about, wanting us to show some emotion, stuff like that. But, we don't get phased, and I think that, really helps us because, even though he gets on us and then we're just sitting there calm, just looking at him with a blank face. So I think that kind of helps us in the games.
Question for Amir. For you, right here, for you specifically in the first Michigan State matchup, is there anything they did you felt like to slow you down, or was that just an off night for you, and what has to be different in the rematch?
I don't know. I thought they were pretty connected on the defense end. They did well with their ball screen defense and guarded smash actions pretty well. So, they were doing little things like jumping to the ball and helping the helper. So they just played solid that game. And, I was off that night as well. So they just did a good job the first time.
Other questions for front row on the left side, in the blue.
Amir, with a lot of ups and downs this season, what have you learned about the resiliency of this group as one of the leaders of the team?
Just how resilient we are through the highs and lows. We've had some good points in this season. We also had some low points. We went on a losing streak 3 or 4 games, and everybody stayed confident and stayed the course. So, just that, having that factor with our team really helps, and I think it's one of the reasons why we got to this point.
Left side on the aisle.
This is for Amir. I was wondering, when you guys are playing a Big Ten team, obviously, how is the prep different in this short turnaround, considering it's a program you guys, I know you only played them once, but it's a program you guys probably are familiar with versus the prep for Louisville or other NCAA situations where it's a team that you don't have as much familiarity with? Is there the ability to go a little deeper, I guess, just because there's that familiarity, or Could you compare and contrast the preparation for both?
I mean, I would say the Louisville prep, we focused a little bit more on personnel and player tendencies because we've never played them before. And with the prep like Michigan State, you can kind of focus more on what they're doing in their schemes because we already know all the players and what they like to do already. So I would just say that's the biggest difference. But I mean, it's really the same. Just go over their plays, watch film, and just get ready for the game.
Right side on the aisle, then we'll come over to the left side.
This question is for Dupree. You guys played in Chicago 3 games. Where's the fatigue factor coming out of a long stretch of games back to back to back like that, going into an NCAA tournament with quick turnarounds?
Coach P did a good job resting us. After the Michigan game, we had 2 days off and was able to prepare. Only practiced for about an hour each day, but, got good reps in and was able to take everything like game-like. So, there's not really any fatigue.
Left side aisle.
Chase Michelson, State News. As a team yesterday, you guys really kind of had maybe your best shooting performance of the season, particularly Gabe. Is that something that you guys sort of think about for tomorrow, or is it just totally new game, new slate?
Start with Amir first and Dupree.
I would say it's a new slate. We got to get past that last one. We shot the ball well, but, it might not be like that tomorrow. So, just go into the game with, focusing on what we need to do. And hopefully we shoot the ball like that again. It would obviously help us. But, if we're not, we got to find different ways to score.
Same thing he said, new slate. Hopefully we shoot the ball that great again tomorrow. But if we don't, we got to find other ways to impact the game and score points.
Stay on the left side on the aisle, then we're coming to you in the second row.
Danny Lawhon, Des Moines Register. What would you guys have in your mind about how you thought fans would travel yesterday? And when the crowd really got behind you, even for that early game, what did that feel like, and what are you hoping for tomorrow now that there's maybe another chance for some more folks to make the 3.5-hour drive down?
Again, we'll go off with Amir first.
Personally, to me, it kind of felt like a home game. Just because the simple fact that we had so many fans there and they were loud and active the whole game. So shout out to them for making that drive for us. They gave us a lot of energy. But yeah, it was a really good turnout. When we got our seating and found out we were playing here, we were very hopeful that they would come out for us, and they did.
Yeah, definitely felt like a home game. Most of the place mostly looked like a lot of Gopher fans. And we're really thankful for their support, and hopefully we get the same crowd tomorrow.
Question in the second row on the left side.
Amir, did you ever have a conversation with Coach Pitino about increasing your minutes to the point where you were really going to be playing full games here down the stretch, and do you embrace that as a part of your skill set to be able to play 40 a game?
He didn't really mention it to me that I was going to start playing the full game. I think it's something that he just tried out. And I think it really just goes to a game-to-game basis. So, if I come out or not, it's just whatever helps the team. But there's no conversation there. And, first time playing 40 minutes, it was tough at first, just getting my fatigue right. But, after a while, I kind of got used to it. After the second or third game, I kind of just got used to it and just gave the team what I had.
Any other questions for our student athletes? Front row, left side.
Amir, being someone that grew up in Minnesota and having the chance to win an NCAA tournament game yesterday, what does that do for you and kind of the pride of being from Minnesota?
It was really cool, especially for the other guys from Minnesota on the team. Just being from Minnesota and having it across your chest, winning an NCAA tournament game. Especially in front of all of our fans that made that drive for us. It was a special feeling.
Front row, right side.
Thank you. Nadine Babu from gopherhole.com. Amir, obviously your dad played for the Gophers. What was his reaction after this win, and what did he say to you?
He was excited, obviously. I looked over at him a couple times during the game, and he was yelling on his feet. So he was definitely had high energy. Just told me what I could do better. Gave me some tips on my shot, and just was excited for myself and my teammates, and just had to keep going.
Still have 10 minutes left in the session. If there are any other questions at all? Okay, gentlemen, thanks very much. Best of luck tomorrow. We'll have Coach Pitino up here in 10 minutes. Again, the Golden Gophers locker room will be open for the media until 2:15. Coach Pitino scheduled at 1:55. What's that? On the dais now, we're pleased to welcome Coach Richard Pitino, whose Golden Gophers are in the NCAA tournament second time in 3 years, hoping to make it to the Sweet 16 for the fourth time in program history. Coach, congratulations on the win last night. Go ahead and preview tomorrow's game.
Well, thank you. Obviously, excited for our program and our players to be able to advance in this tournament. I mean, being here 2 years ago was great, and, you know, as a program, you're always trying to move forward, so to be able to improve on getting to the tournament and advancing is huge. I love the way that we played. I mean, obviously we won, but I thought we played very, very well in every phase yesterday versus Louisville. So our guys battled, and now we got to be ready, obviously, because Michigan State, terrific team who's playing as good as any team in the country. They've got Cassius Winston, who's probably one of the best point guards in the country, and a lot of really good pieces around them. And obviously Coach Izzo does a terrific job, so it's going to be a tough test for us, but we're excited about the opportunity.
Questions for the coach, please raise your hand. We have a microphone holder your way. We're going to go in the back row, right side, then we're going to come up to the front.
Coach, what have you seen differently from Michigan State in the paint with Tillman obviously replacing Ward as far as their main go-to guy inside?
Well, Ward's still a factor. You know, they've got a lot of depth. I mean, unfortunately, they've dealt with some injuries, you know, but they're still going to be who Michigan State is. The bigs are going to run the court. They're going to duck you in early. They're going to pound the glass. They're relentless. You know, they're physically relentless. And that's been the consistent theme with that team every single year that we've played them. So there's not a whole lot of a drop-off.
Front row, right side.
Obviously, this is a unique situation, having Michigan State in the second round. Is it actually a benefit for you, though, just having the short turnaround time and being able to prep for the game because you know their team so well already?
I'd rather play somebody else and not know them. Yeah, I guess from a prep standpoint, maybe it's a little bit easier because we know each other. You know, but just because we know who they are. Obviously we know they're very, very good, so I'm not sure it's an advantage necessarily. But from a short prep time, these guys know what Michigan State's all about. We got a lot of respect for how they do things. So it's important to get rest. I mean, when you play, a physical game like we played yesterday, it's important to get some rest. But then watch some film and put together that game plan on the court as well as in the film room.
Going to go left side aisle, then we'll come over to the right side aisle.
Richard, what's the biggest difference in your team between what it is now and the one we saw in East Lansing in February?
Well, the team you saw, that was not a very good team at the time. I mean, we just offensively were really, really struggling. Allowed them to get out on the break. Cassius was very, very good. McQuaid was very good. Nick Ward really hurt us down low. We had dealt with, I think, Curry kind of going down right before that with some calf issues. And then playing at Michigan State's very, very hard. But I think we've got some confidence going right now. Beat Purdue twice. I think in 10 days, they're a terrific team. Went in and beat a surging Penn State team in the conference tournament, obviously then Purdue, and then beat a terrific Louisville team yesterday. So probably a confidence factor, just feeling those wins, tasting them. Offensively played well last night. Defensively did a lot of good things. So more than anything, I think these guys, the difference between playing in the middle of the Big Ten versus in the NCAA tournament, probably mentally, these guys are a little bit more locked in, a little bit more, feeling great about where they are, but also understanding the challenges that lie ahead.
Richard, this is going to be your 24th game against a Big Ten opponent, same with Michigan State. I'm just curious, with the 20-game schedule and then the way the brackets fell out, do you think it was fair or just? I know you guys can only do what the committee gives you, but should the Big Ten have been matched up this early and also with the chance to have a 25th game if Maryland gets through for one of you guys?
It's very similar to the Louisville game. You're not going to hear me complain. I'm very, very excited to be in this tournament. I don't care who we play. You're never going to hear me complain about that. So we're going to play who's in front of us. Michigan State's a terrific team. In order to go to a Sweet 16, you're never going to play easy games. So we take what we get. We're excited to be in this tournament and obviously excited about an opportunity to go play for a Sweet 16.
Question on the left side.
Richard, Kenny Goins has been a player for Michigan State who's been a pretty pivotal role player all year. He's struggled from three as of late, but how do you game plan against a guy who's been in so many different roles throughout the years?
Well, testament to him that he's gotten so much better. He works his butt off. Obviously, his story is great. Can shoot the ball. I mean, last night he didn't shoot it well, but he's a much better shooter than that. The things that they put you in from a ball screen perspective, they're going to run some pick and pops. They're going to run some ball screens with the 5-man, dive him, lift the 4-man up. So you've got to be ready to guard him. And then, a three-point shot, that's part of their offense because they're going to go offensive rebound it. So for him, he's very versatile. He's very tough, and he has the ability to stretch the defense, so it's a tough matchup for us.
Stay on the left side on the aisle in the red.
Given the extended run in the Big Ten tournament, this is looking at the 5th game in a really short period of time. How comfortable are you energy-wise with where your guys are at, and what have you done to kind of keep them fresh with this bit of a unique situation?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with, Motts, who's going through that concussion protocol, with Jordan Murphy, who had back spasms yesterday, with a lot of guys playing major minutes. Amir Coffey didn't come out. Gabe Kalsher played a lot. Dupree played a lot. Rest is important. As a coach, you got to make sure that whatever you do with your team benefits the team, not necessarily you as a coach, because coaches sometimes like to make themselves feel better on the practice court where it may not always be beneficial for them. So, with one day off, you got to get rest. It's very, very important to keep them off their feet and make sure they're getting rehab and doing all those things, but also just making sure they understand what the game plan is.
Left side, we got 3 standing up over there.
Richard, watching your team since you played Michigan State earlier in the season, you guys have really evolved and changed. You're not the same team that you played. I'm curious, how has Michigan State evolved, or do you see them pretty much, have they stayed the course?
They're always pretty good. They've been pretty consistent since I've coached against them, that they've got the certain pillars of the way that they want to play. They don't deviate from a whole lot. Cassius is just so rock solid with everything that he does. Nick Ward on and off with some injuries, but those younger guys are getting better. I mean, Henry's kind of an X factor for them on the glass. They've been good for a long time. Coach Izzo is one of the best coaches out there for a reason, and that program's a terrific program. So they're playing really good basketball. I mean, they beat Michigan 3 times. Michigan's a really, really good team.
Right side on the aisle, then we're going across the left side.
Yeah, Richard Eric Olson with the Associated Press. Coach Izzo yesterday found some spotlight for his heated interaction with Aaron Henry. I wanted to ask you, what's your take just on how that unfolded from just probably watching the video of it? And also, could you comment on what your reaction to basically the national reaction has been? There's been some negative and positive, but there's been a lot of it regardless. So what's kind of your take on that?
Well, I can tell you this. I mean, I'm not surprised that there's outrage. There's outrage with everything that goes on, with everything that any of us do, so that's not a surprise. As for Coach Izzo, I mean, I've coached against him now for 6 years, and I've never seen a group of players that play harder, respect, and love more than Coach Izzo. He's going to be hard on them, but, whenever you watch them play, every single player runs off the court. When he talks to them, they arm around him, right? So he's tough on him. He should be tough on him. That's why he's in the Hall of Fame. But I'll tell you this, and I didn't see too much of all that, but I know his players love playing for him. And, I was at Michigan State when they had the national championship team with Magic Johnson and all those guys that came back, and I don't know if they had a lot of people that missed that. And that's a testament to how much they love Coach Izzo. So those players are lucky to play for him. Every time I coach against him, I become a better coach. I learn something from him. So I've got 1,000% the most respect for him as any other coach I've ever faced.
Question on the left side, then we get Pat and come back to the left.
Jeff Greer from The Athletic. Richard, just from being in the locker room now and on Wednesday, it seems like your team has a pretty good camaraderie off the court. In your opinion, how does that translate to on the court, and do you put much stock into the whole team chemistry thing?
Well, it's important from a chemistry standpoint to have, off the court, a respect level for each other as human beings and as obviously teammates. But you've got to develop, it's important, but you got to develop that on the court too. That's just as important as being friends, hanging out together. There's got to be a chemistry on the court in the heat of the battle. When adversity hits, being able to talk to each other, being able to push each other, being able to, maybe address something on the court the right way, talking to each other. And you're probably going to be better at that if you like each other and if you respect each other. So winning helps that. Having good kids like we do also helps that as well.
Question on the right, and then we'll come to the left.
Yeah, Richard, certainly Izzo is not going to let Gabe take open looks. What is the counter to how you expect Michigan State to defend him?
Well, Louisville's got a terrific defense, and offensively, I thought we just executed very well, and we rebounded the ball well. But it all starts with us, with our defense. If we can defend and we can rebound, it allows us to get out on the break, and that's been kind of the ingredient for us all year. When we've been good, we've been able to defend. So it's all about execution. We're all going to know everything that we're doing this time of year. It's just a matter of how hard do you cut, how hard do you screen, how well do you move the ball and share it.
Question on the left aisle.
Richard, the last 7 games are arguably the best stretch of Amir's career. Looking at it big picture, how have you seen him develop over the last 3 seasons on and off the court to get to where he is now?
Well, it's just been a normal, natural progression. Everybody's in a rush to skip steps. For Amir, he was an all-freshman player in the Big Ten, played the most minutes in the league for any player, for a team that was a 5 seed in the NCAA tournament. He was a major part of that. Last year going into the year, he was playing well, and then unfortunately season-ending surgery. So he's healthy, and he's reliable. And when he's attacking the right way, he's tough to keep in front and tough when he's getting to the basket. And he's played a lot of games 40 minutes. That's hard to do. So he's quietly a fierce competitor.
Left aisle, then we'll go in the back and come up front.
Coach, you spoke a lot about Gabe's professionalism and work ethic. How have you felt like you've tried to use that as an example for other guys, and has it just kind of inherently rubbed off on them?
Oh, there's no better peer pressure than seeing somebody like Gabe, when you break for practice and you can either go to the locker room, you can go to the training room, you could shoot half-court shots, you can mess around with your teammates, or what is Gabe Kalsher, he'll go right to the corner and he will do a shooting routine. It doesn't matter. He did it today. It doesn't matter where we are, when we're playing, what game we played the night before. Like, that does not affect him. And when he shoots free throws, and he does his free throw shooting routine, every free throw he shoots, he points up to the sky for whatever reason. He does that when he's practicing. So he is methodical in his approach, and that absolutely. And then you see him do what he does last night. I would hope that would motivate our guys. It'd motivate me.
Back row on the aisle.
Obviously, we know yesterday Jordan's going to play regardless, but how's he doing health-wise? And then Motts, and obviously if Motts doesn't play, what did you like from some of the guys off the bench that you got?
Yeah, Motts is in going through that concussion protocol, so it's day by day there. We don't really know. And then Jordan, I think, has improved. He was struggling. He was kind of laboring through that second half. So we got a lot of treatment for him. We didn't really go full go today in practice by any means, but we held him out. But I would anticipate, after knowing Jordan the way that I've known him now for 4 years, I'd be very surprised if he doesn't play.
Front row, we have 6 minutes left in this session.
When you first started recruiting Gabe Kalsher, what were a few things that stood out about him?
The ability to hit shots. He played on a really good AAU team, and he would have some games where he'd hit 5, 6 threes. I did see that kind of that business-like approach, which I really liked. And it was just, he's a good person, cares about being a good person, cares about winning. And those are guys that, the more I'm in the Big Ten, you win with guys like that. Guys that are smart players, take this thing seriously, not afraid of contact, not afraid to guard the best player. And, it's kind of amazing because he didn't have a lot of high major offers. But he was a guy that we identified with. We didn't really care about rankings or anything like that, and we wanted him. And he's been a really good player, had a really good freshman year.
Left side aisle.
Coach, you often talk about how even-keeled this team is. You've used the phrase that they don't have a pulse. But you also say that guys like...
Did I say that?
I think so. And you've also mentioned that guys like Amir, they're fiercely competitive. So do you think that even-keeled approach is sort of in itself a form of competitiveness? And how do you see that competitiveness play itself out?
Well, I think it's a strength. I do think that when you're in the Big Ten and you're playing 20 league games and you're in, like we talked about, all the outrage in today's world, you can't get too high, you can't get too low. You really can't because it's going to happen. There's no running from that part of it in our profession today, especially with social media. So you need to be able to, if you lose 2 or 3 in a row in the Big Ten, you just got to move on. You got to learn from every single game that you play in. And guys have had nights where they haven't hit shots, and they've stayed the course. You have to do that. It's a long, long season. And we're playing our best basketball now, and I think a lot of that has to do with kind of the mentality of the team. They really don't get too high. They really don't get too low.
Left side standing up.
Just, I guess, sort of a simple question. Just how do you see your bigs, whether it's Daniel and Jordan or whoever else off the bench, matching up against Tillman, Ward, and Goins?
Well, it's not easy. They're big, they're strong, they're physical. You try to game plan for it, but when you don't have that on your roster, it's hard, to see. So obviously playing against them, opens our eyes a little bit. But there's not a lot of front courts with that size and that physicality and are as relentless as they are. So we're going to have to do a great job on those guys. That's extremely important when you're playing Michigan State.
I have time for 2 more questions. Right side aisle.
Coach, winning an NCAA tournament game obviously hasn't happened too much in the last 20 years. What does that do, you think, for the program moving forward? And obviously having kids on the team from Minnesota, having big moments like a Gabe and Daniel and Amir.
Yeah, when you're building a program, winning facilities, all that stuff is great. But at the end of the day, winning is what sells your program more than anything. And from a recruiting standpoint, when you see a guy like Gabe Kalsher and Daniel Arturo and Amir and Jarvis and Michael, those are 5 kids playing in an NCAA tournament game and helping us win in advance. That sells more than anything else. You know, and their families are in the stands, and you know they're excited about it. And you see an arena that's filled with Gopher fans. That's what playing college basketball is all about. And you're seeing these players that are getting better and getting that exposure. You know, I mean, that's a dream come true. I mean, to hear, you know, Gabe Kalsher, you know, I get chills, and I'm not just saying it, but to hear Kevin Harlan, you know, calling that, that's special even for me. You know, so winning helps. Winning helps build a program, and you need to be able to capitalize off of that success and continue to get good recruiting classes.
One final question, if there are any. Left side aisle.
I know that you worked to kind of prepare for Michigan State right away, but did you do anything to kind of commemorate the win, or do you have any well wishes that you'd like to speak of?
I went to dinner. Is that something? I went to dinner with my wife and my brother. No, other than that, just move on. You know, I mean, it's a great win. You know, I mean, it's a great win. But in this tournament, it's like anything else. I told our team, you know, you got to the tournament, which is a goal. Are you just happy to be here, or would you like to make some noise? You know, obviously they showed the ability to do that versus a really good Louisville team. You know, now you're one game away from a Sweet 16. You got to beat a really, really good Michigan State team. So, no, I didn't do anything besides get a bite to eat and then watch film, you know, and try to find a way to help our guys beat a really good Michigan State team.
Thank you very much, Coach.
Thank
Best
you.
of luck tomorrow.
Thanks.
There's 3 minutes left in the Golden Gophers locker room for media availability. We'll have Michigan State up here at approximately 2:20. We'll be starting the Michigan State Student Athletes Press Conference within the next minute. Again, the satellite coordinates, Galaxy 17/18K, slot B, the downlink 120, 55.5 vertical, 120, 55.5 vertical. Pleased to have with us on the dais for this second session of the afternoon, the Michigan State Spartans. To my immediate left, senior guard Matt McQuaid, the man in the middle, junior guard Cassius Winston, and on my far left, junior forward Nick Ward. This time, if you have a question, please raise your hand. Please state your name and a media affiliation. We have a microphone holder come your way. Left side aisle.
Just for all of you playing a Big Ten team in the NCAA tournament, it's probably not something you guys were necessarily expecting. So how's the prep different, and just how do you guys expect the game to go, considering that it's a team that you're more familiar with?
We're going to start with Nick and work our way to Matt.
Well, to be honest, we played them earlier this year, so we do know a little bit about them. And, of course, they're a Big Ten team, so it'll be a little bit of a challenge. So we just got to come out and play hard.
Yeah, like Nick said, we played them before, so we probably know their tendencies a little bit better. They probably know ours a little bit better. So, it's not going to come down to the X's and the O's. It's going to come down to which team plays the hardest, which team executes the best.
Yeah, we both know each other pretty good, and playing each other earlier in the season. They're a different team now. They're playing really good, and we just gotta be ready.
Questions, please raise your hand. Far right side, second row.
Hey, Nick, Jim Combroni, SpartanMag.com. Just asking, curious how you're conditioning. How do you feel it's coming along? Do you feel like you're making progress, firstly? Secondly, how are you doing in terms of catching entry passes? Has that part been an adjustment in your recovery?
My conditioning has come along, I've made great strides. Last week wasn't the best, but this week I feel, I'm starting to feel normal again. As far as, catching the ball and stuff like that, it is a little bit of a challenge, but it's something I got to get used to. Catching harder entry passes was, my thing for a while. But, since it's on my left hand, it has made it a little bit challenging, but it's something I have to just get used to.
Back to the left side.
Nick, for you personally, and also for Kenny and X, going up against Jordan Murphy and Daniel Turu, how do you guys kind of think you match up against their bigs, and what do you kind of expect from that matchup?
Well, their bigs are, very talented, and rebound and work hard. That's something that we all do. And we just got to know their tendencies at the end of the day and box out. That's a big part of our game plan, And in order for us to win, we're going to have to contain them on the boards and, contain them as best as we can.
Question for Matt and Cassius. Amir Coffey has been playing more of the point over the last few games since you guys have played each other. And he's put together a string of games where he's really sort of put the team on his back and carried Minnesota to the tournament. Just from a defensive standpoint, how do you make adjustments on a guy who has suddenly gotten hot or has become a lot more successful at finding his game?
Start with Cassius and Matt.
I think this is a better question for Matt and those guys, the stoppers. like I said, he's been playing really, really well and doing a lot for that team. You just got to watch enough film, watch his tendencies, and just try to make it as uncomfortable as possible for him. He's a good player, so he's going to make things happen. But if you put him in uncomfortable situations the whole game, you got a better chance.
Yeah, like you said, he's a big reason why they're playing so good right now. The film and just trusting the coach's game plan and going out there and executing it is probably just the main thing on stopping a really good player like that, and just trusting each other, too, on the court and having each other's back.
Jack Ebling, Spotlight Radio Network and Fox 47. Cassius, your coach yesterday was praising your leadership more than your play, saying that it was as well as you've ever led. Can you talk about being able to hold players accountable and yet be a buffer between the player and your coach?
I just grown a lot in that area, being more comfortable, being vocal, and like I said, my teammates, they trust me, so I wouldn't steer them the wrong way. It took a while just to gain their trust and things like that, so I wouldn't steer my teammates the wrong way, and also Coach trusts me too, so he trusts me to give him that message and things like that.
Left side aisle.
You probably at least heard some of the reaction that Coach got nationally for the moment yesterday on the floor with his passion, I guess, coming out. But everybody really who plays for him comes out and just says that he's one of the best leaders that you could possibly have. I guess maybe to whoever wants to just explain to us why Coach Izzo's style just really works for you as a basketball player as you try to lead and grow in yourself.
Start off at the far end.
Well, Coach wants the best for you. Him yelling at Henny yesterday was just a sign that he just wants the best for you, and he wants to push you to be the best player that you can be on and off the court. That's something that we harp on in this program, and that's something that we build around. Just making players into young men.
Coach is he's filled with passion and emotion and love. Those are the main things that make him as great as he is. So, when he's getting after you or when he's yelling, it's never out of harm. It's never out of hate. It's literally just him wanting the best for you and him challenging you and him pushing you to be the best that you can be. And it's worked for years and years and years. And he's a great coach and even a better person. You know what I'm saying? So him yelling, he's the first one to yell, and he'll be the first one to cry when something bad or good happens. So it's all emotion. It's all him just caring for you.
Yeah, like they said, it's just all out of love. And you just feel that when you get here and when you talk to him, he's just got a passion that's crazy for this game. And, we all have the same goal, and that was just to win the game yesterday. And, you could feel that in the huddle. We just wanted to win.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Kevin Flanagan, Twitter at What Up, Kev. Hey, guys. Question for all three of you guys. Cassius, you spoke yesterday about needing to settle into the tournament, the confidence and the nerves and everything that comes along with this tournament. Maybe all you guys talk about where are you now compared to where you were 26 hours ago? Nerves-wise, what's the vibe with the team?
Start with Nick, work our way to Matt.
I feel like, this isn't our first rodeo. We know what to expect, and we're experienced guys. We got 2 juniors and a senior up here. So I feel like our mindset was just to win the game yesterday. And, that's the whole, mindset of the tournament is to survive in advance.
Like I said, the first game's always going to be difficult. Just the rhythm of it, the pace of it, the referees, all type of stuff you got to adjust to. I feel like now we got that out the way. We could just focus on basketball, just focus on winning the game, focus on our opponent at hand.
Yeah, we just had to take it one game at a time. And, of course, the first one, just getting to feel like Cash just said, for everything is important. And now we just got to get ready for a good Minnesota team.
Any other questions for our student athletes before we dismiss them? Okay, thanks, gentlemen. Best of luck tomorrow. Michigan State locker room is still open for another 20 minutes.
is. She is.
I'd like to welcome to the dais head coach of the Michigan State Spartans, Tom Izzo. This is the 7th trip in the last 8 years for Michigan State in the second round. This time we're taking an opening statement from Coach Izzo. Thank you.
Well, we are excited to be here. You know, I don't know if I'm as excited to play another Big Ten team. We just done that for 20 games, and then we just did it for 3 in the Big Ten tournament. But it's the way the schedule is, and I think everybody asked me, is it easier to prepare for a team? We are 2 completely different teams than we were a month and a half ago, you know. We didn't have Kenny Goins in that game. We did have Kyle Arns. We had Nick Ward full go, and he played very well. On the other side of the coin, Coffey wasn't even a shadow of the player he is right now. And Kelsher is playing much, much better. And Murphy, I think, and Atulu are playing better. So we're different teams. We've only played once. It was a long time ago. And the prep feels brand new. But I'm proud of where we are. I'm excited for Richard because he went through hell there in the early part of the Big Ten season with some injuries of his own, and he got that team back playing, and they're playing as good as anybody in the league, and that was proven in the Big Ten tournament.
First question on the left side, second aisle.
Hondo Carpenter with Spartan Nation. Tom, you have long said since you started you wanted to build the program and earn respect. Richard Pitino just said that every time he's coached against you, he's learned something, and there's no coach in America he has more respect for. Your program has it, but so do you. As an elder statesman in the game, are you able to appreciate that appreciation and that respect?
What a kind way of saying, you old man, elder statesman. That's pretty good. I got to remember that. But, you know, Richard, I mean, I'm the same boat. You know, I remember going against his dad and learning things from him. But I have watched his career because it's not easy to do what he did at his age and kind of go through the tough times of the job, but he survived them. And I think that's the greatest part. You know, he's not only survived them, but he's got his team playing the best that's playing. I mean, who doesn't love a kid like Murphy? If you're me, you definitely love him because he can rebound with anybody in the world. He set some records. He's a tough kid and yet a humble kid. I recruited Coffey. I know how good he is. Unfortunately for us, he might be playing at the best level, but it's great to go against people that, you know, players that you admire and a young coach who's coming into it and setting the standards as he's set, coming off the canvas like they did early on when they struggled a little bit and playing their best basketball. So hats off to him, too.
Questions for the coach. Left side aisle in the red.
Given the makeup of Minnesota's roster, why has Gabe Kalsher, even as a freshman, developed into such a matchup problem for a lot of teams?
Well, because, you know, it's hard. Who do you guard him with? I mean, you got to guard Coffey's become a point forward, you know, and Coffey and McBride are, I think if there's one thing that's changed on this team, they're getting into that paint a lot. And they're so big they can see over people. You know, it's 6'7", 6'5". They're athletic, they're long. They shoot it good enough, but they can get into that paint and look over people. And then if you get into the paint, you got to help it all. You know, they've got 2 true Big Ten big men that are rebounding the ball, are physical down there. So I just think in general, Culture, he's a recipient of, if you double down on him, the kickouts, he's a spot-up shooter. If you penetrate and somebody helps, those big guards are big enough to find him. He moves pretty well without the ball. And, you know, I watched him in AAU tournaments, and the kid can flat out shoot it. And, you know, he had 17 against us the first time. But, you know, you can just see, I mean, everybody's becoming better because those freshmen become sophomores at this time.
Left side standing up.
As a member of the Minnesota media, I know that you were real close with the late Flip Saunders, and I know that you've had some talks with Ryan as he's gone through a tough year. Are you speaking to him somewhat, and are they late night conversations like you had with Flip?
Well, not as late as Flip. You know, he was used to watch those, was that QVC or OVC or whatever it was, you know. I think he bought cheap watches and cheap coats there. But Flip was a special guy, and I got to know Ryan early on. I got to know him when he, you know, through Flip, and then when he played at Minnesota. And I'm just so impressed with what Ryan's done, you know. I talked to him the day that he was being offered the job. I was up in Minnesota, you know, earlier in the year. We scrimmaged Gonzaga and spent some time with him over at the hotel. And, you know, it's a sad deal, a really sad deal, because not only one of the great coaches in the profession, but one of the great guys. And I remember going up there for the funeral, and the coaches that flew in, you know, Popovich, Doc Rivers, you know, they had games that night, and they flew up, and it was, God, that's respect beyond respect. And with Ryan, you know, I watched the first night when he won that game and got his little shower and everything. And I told him, I said, you know, how was that? He said, well, God, you know, he goes, I had my suit on. I said, trust me, enjoy it. Hope it happens a lot, because it never happens enough. But he's doing a great job. It's not easy to do what he did. And yet I see that team. I read some of the comments of some of those players. And, you know, if he can hang on, I think he's going to be a star in that league before he's done. Really do.
Left side aisle in the blue.
Daniel House, gopherhole.com. What are some of the challenges associated with defending someone like Jordan Murphy, and how big of a challenge has he been over the years?
Oh, God, he's a rebounding machine, you know, and I love rebounders. I mean, every time we play him, at the end of the game, you know, I guess I secretively would be trying to get him to transfer immediately, you know, because I love the kid. He's humble, he's got no ego, he doesn't talk it, he just does it. And who doesn't love a kid that's like that? What he's done a better job of, he's putting the ball on the floor a lot better. He used to be able to shoot the ball over his left shoulder. Now he can go off both shoulders. He was a right-hander that shot it over his right shoulder, which was weird. I think he's developing, and his game is just, and I think Richard and he both deserve credit for that. But he is a lot different, and I think a better player than the one we faced a month and a half, 2 months ago, whenever it was.
Left side aisle in the red jacket.
I know there was a lot not to like yesterday, but in terms of, you know, it was a win and you're moving on. So what did you like in terms of items or moments or observations that you saw that can help the team however far the rest of this tournament run goes?
Well, I like the way that we sucked it up, you know. I mean, it was a tough week, you know, with the 3 games and the travel, and I mean, a lot of people have to do something like this, but it was hard. I think Kenny Goins, you know, he played like 39, 40 minutes in those games in Chicago, and had to play a ton of minutes last night, and I thought struggled a little bit. But I thought Cassius is feeling better, the toes better, the knees better. Still got fatigued a little bit, but I think health-wise, he's better. And Xavier came on. I think a big key for us right now, because we need a lift, is getting Nick back. You know, Nick came back when he probably wasn't ready to come back. It wasn't anything that was going to damage his hand. I just mean physically ready and conditioning. You know, he got the approval to go, and it was like play. And Nick's played very well against Minnesota, and I was hoping to get him a few more minutes last night. But, you know, when you play those smaller teams, they got guys that can pick and pop and shoot threes or put the ball on the floor. Now we're getting back into more traditional teams, and so I'm hoping to get Nick in there more and get a real rotation so Kenny and X get a little more rest. On the perimeter, we are what we are, but there might even be some times we could move Kenny around to different positions, and so we'll see. But, you know, I like the competitiveness. I like the fact that we dealt with some adversity and handled it. I like the fact that Cassius really took over the game again like a good point guard should. McQuaid, again, hit a couple big shots. Aaron Henry made the big post move and a couple of free throws. And I had to love the fact that you go 26 for 27 or 25 for whatever we did from the free throw line. It was a couple years ago, and we were a disaster. So I think our coaches and our players deserve a lot of credit. They've worked on it. They made all their free throws. And Kenny apologized to him for missing that one, you know, and didn't bother me any.
We have 6 minutes left in the session. We have 2 questions on the left side here.
Casey Harrison, State News. Tom, you talked about Kenny playing a lot of minutes. I believe he's 4 for the last 18 from 3 over his last 3 games. He said yesterday that his shot felt flat. What are you seeing from maybe a fatigue standpoint or mechanically about his shot?
You know, I think there's 2 things a little bit. When your shot is a little flat, means you're not getting enough lift with your legs. But I also think people are playing them different. And without Nick in there, you know, you can afford to press up a little bit more on the perimeter because you don't have to worry as much down low. So, you know, a combination of things. But, you know, Kenny still found a way to get 9 rebounds and do some things. But, you know, that stretch 4 and what he did was one of the reasons we won the Big Ten and the Big Ten tournament. But I think, you know, I think just being here a day and getting through that first game, last night's walkthrough, today's walkthrough, there's a little bit more of a freshness to this team. And I think we'll be ready to go. You know, we're going to have to be because they're playing their best basketball of the season.
Left side aisle, and then we'll go in the back and come back up to the front.
Tom, you've always talked about a player-coach team being better than a coach-coach team. What does it do for you when Cassius can be a buffer for you and also convey your message with different decibels, especially to the young guys who haven't been through this before?
You know, Cassius has grown a lot. You know, I always kid him because his freshman year wasn't a walk in the park or all roses either, you know. But whose was? You know, I mean, it's amazing the number of calls you get at this time of year from former players and everybody. You know, freshmen, that's why you're called a freshman, you know. You don't know anything and you have no idea what it takes to win because you've never been at this level. And so I have always believed that leadership, and I think McQuaid and Cassius have done a phenomenal job. Cassius it's an area, my whole thing with him is let's take everything to another level. You know, let's take your defense to another level, your leadership to another level. And he just keeps answering the bell, you know. And so I'm, you know, I get proud of people when I see a change, and especially in a change in an area that maybe, as a lot of people say, well, that's his personality. Well, I've always said you got to change your personality too if you want to be a great or elite player. And I think Cassius is really working on that. And so I'm proud of him for that. You know, he came in to a huddle one time when he made some mistakes and a couple of turnovers, and that 7-8 point lead went down to a -1 for us. And, you know, when people take blame, that is such a beautiful thing nowadays. And he's just turning into a good leader, a great player, and able to do some things because he is the even-keeled guy on my team. You know, there's nobody like Cassius, and he's learning how to use that to his advantage.
See Minneapolis. Just your thoughts on the Big Ten going 6-0 so far in March Madness. What does that say about the conference and the toughness of it this year?
It's one of the rare times in my whole life that I ever pull for my in-state rival a little bit. You know, I mean, I have to do it because I don't think the Big Ten sometimes gets the respect it deserves. You know, I said all year that I thought ours was the best conference top to bottom. And you can argue that a million different ways, and there's no way to prove it. But one way to prove it is to just keep winning. And when I see all those Big Ten teams winning, I just watched Iowa a little bit before I came here. And, you know, I had my Hawkeye jersey on. You know, I was, especially when you've been in the league as long as I have. And I guess I'm the guy that's been here the most years. So it's not only part of my job, part of my obligation, but I do feel my school is Michigan State, but I have a sense of ownership for the Big Ten too, and I think it's been great. That's the only part that's disappointing, that we got to face each other in the second weekend, at least us in Minnesota do. But I just hope the league keeps winning.
Question on the left, standing up. There you go.
Tom, I know you've talked about how Minnesota is different than the first time you played them. What about you guys? You were coming off a losing streak and busted out against them a little bit. How different is your team now since then?
Well, it is different. You know, Kenny's back, and he wasn't there but for a couple minutes of that game. But Kyle's not there, and he played in that game. And maybe the biggest difference was I think Nick had 22 or 20 points, and Nick is pretty good defensively, especially on a good post player. Now, I think like a guy like Murphy or Turu are both better at putting the ball on the floor than they were early. So we're both different. If they shoot the ball like they did yesterday, that makes them a lot different than they've been all year. You know, they've been a low 30s shooting team from the three, and they're just shooting the ball better right now, or at least did yesterday. So, like all of us, everybody's a little inconsistent. You know, they played so well a couple of games, and they played a game or two that they weren't as good in, and we've done the same thing. So I thought it was a big win for him yesterday. I thought, I know how good Louisville is. We played against them, and I thought pretty much Minnesota dominated them, you know, definitely over half the game.
Our final question right here on the left aisle.
I was in between you and Bob yesterday when you guys were talking about the exchange with Henry. Were you surprised at all by the national reaction? I guess those of us who are around the program more often were, I guess, a little less surprised by what happened.
You know, it's funny. You know, I learned in the last couple of years about sound bites, and one word makes a difference. You know, there's a 10-second sound bite in a 2-year relationship, and I just think that people don't understand that coaches, at least this coach, relies on relationships with his players. I think more than any coach in the country. Now, that's a egotistical or a selfish statement or self-proclaimed, but I think it's been earned and it's been talked about. And the number of players that called me last night that had already called Aaron, and Aaron, that thing was, I won't say it was nothing, it was nothing. But the 10 seconds, you know, you got to appreciate that there's a year and a half of recruiting. There's a year that he's been there now. There's hours and hours and hours are spent on what do you want to accomplish? What do you need to do to accomplish that? What do you need to do to help our team win? And if you don't do those things, what do you think my job is? So a little bit surprised. This day and age doesn't, to me it was ridiculous, the way it blew up. I just would publicly thank the many, many people that just saw it as ridiculous, how people reacted. But it's not have nothing to do with anything with me, with Aaron. I was thinking of benching him, but I decided I'm going to start him anyway, and we're going to move on. And he's a great kid that has improved so much. But for us to be a championship team, for us to move on, he's got to continue to improve even more. He understands that. I understand that. My players understand that. I hate to say it. That's all that really matters to me.
Thank you very much,
Thanks.
Coach. Best of luck tomorrow. We will have student athletes from Florida, approximately 3:10. Still at 3? So I got to get the Nimhard. So. Did he get him another? Did he get him another Coke Zero on the way out? Yeah. He didn't. I asked him. Oh. As we're getting set for student athletes from Florida, again, the satellite coordinates, Galaxy 17/18K, slot B. The downlink, 120-55 vertical. If you have a question, raise your hand. Please make sure your iPhone is on silence or vibrator mode. No recording of this press conference, no flash photography. Three freshman members of the Gators basketball. Ready for our final session of the afternoon. Please have with us student athletes from Michigan, joined by a pair of sophomores. To my immediate left, forward Isaiah Livers, and to my far left, Jordan Poole. This time we'll take questions. For our student athletes, please raise your hand. Back row, right side.
Isaiah, Coach talked yesterday a little bit about how you kind of stepped up the last few games or so. Has there been a change in your game, or is it just you're taking what you see?
Nothing really different. It's just Coach B really just believing what I can do and just the confidence that I have to have when I'm out there playing for my guys and for myself and for the coaching staff. They believe in a lot of things that I do, and I just got to go out there and play aggressive.
Defensively, Florida has mentioned that they are really wanting to try and throw a lot of different looks at everyone here this week. They did so against Nevada a couple times, especially down the stretch. What do you guys know about the overall defensive challenge that they provide?
The defensive challenge that they bring to the table is they change their defense. They can go from man-to-man to a 1-2-2 press, 1-2-2 press back to a 2-3 or 1-3-1. They just got a lot of different defensive personnels that they do than other teams that we've seen, so that's kind of different for us.
Jordan?
Yeah, they have a lot of different defensive schemes. Being able to go against a defensive team like that, we need to really be locked in on our offensive flows and our offensive sets. Being able to have X at the top in the point guard position, being able to call those out and identifying them early, it should really help us.
Going to go to the back on the right side.
This is for both players. I know he came back last week, but what does it do for the whole team with Charles being so involved in the offense again like he was last night?
Start with Jordan first, please.
Being able to have Charles back it brings a different dynamic to the team. Having a leader and a guy who's been able to provide so much on the offensive and defensive end, being able to just have them on the court, it just gives us a different type of feel and a different aggressiveness, and being able to go out there and have performances how we did yesterday, it just shows what we're capable of.
Yeah, it's harder for teams to scout really when you have an extra weapon on the floor like Charles brings to the table. And it's just also what Jordan was talking about, his leadership, and just another voice out there talking is really helpful for young guys like Iggy or us too, because it's just have another leader who's been through it already.
Other questions for our student athletes? Back left side.
You guys have been through this process, before, but what are the couple most important things about this in-between day when you have short turnarounds? I mean, you got to focus on the next opponent that's coming, you got to rest, and you got to mix all those things together. What's the most, I guess, whether it's physical or mental kind of frame of mind, what's the important thing about a day like today?
Start with Jordan first, please.
I personally believe it's rest, only because you're coming off scouting a team for an entire week, or not even an entire week, just trying to figure out who you have to play. And this in-between day really gives us time to rest our bodies physically, but mentally we still have to be locked in and prepared to go against an entirely new challenge. So kind of the dynamic of mental and physical, I feel like rest is the key, but you can't mentally rest because there's so much that you have to do in order to face a new team.
Yeah, I agree with Jordan. A lot of mental preparation between that one day. You change from one team to another who does something totally different than the other team before did. So it's just you got to shift your mind and also body because you just played the day before. So that's also key.
Back row, right side, please.
It's for both players. The Florida coach and players talked about how your size is going to present a problem. With them bringing a smaller lineup with a small ball approach, is that going to present some problems for you guys?
Start with Jordan again.
I feel like our preparation for Montana really helped us. I think they had a 6'5" 5-man yesterday, and John did a really good job on him, but being able to switch it up and have Isaiah play the 5-man and play the 4-man, and guys who are able to play different positions, I feel like it's a strength of ours. So even if they do go small ball lineup, we're still able to switch up our personnel and have different dynamics in order to guard them.
I have a lot of confidence in John Teskey staying at the 5 and when they go small ball because that guy can guard 1 through 5 without a problem. I don't see that how that would present a problem for him because he did it yesterday. So I think he'll be just fine.
Any other questions? Back row again.
I'll go just one more. Both Coach Beilein and Coach Izzo talked about how the short turnaround from Sunday to Thursday was kind of taxing. Did you guys feel like that, or did you feel that, or was it just you guys are fine yesterday?
Me personally, I remember last year after the Big Ten tournament, we had a week off, and then we came and we had to prepare for March Madness. But I personally think being able to have the quick turnaround helps us, especially because we have momentum coming in from the Big Ten tournament. But being able to try to roll the momentum and go while you're ahead and, you know what I'm saying, try to have positive energy continuing throughout the week, I feel like it's a strength of ours. And being able to stay locked in and not have too much downtime or too much off time is really helping us.
Yeah, I also agree. I like the short turnaround. Just like you said, stay locked in. You don't got to shake any rust off, waiting the whole week just to play another game again like last year when we played Montana. But yeah, I just agree with Jordan.
Still have plenty of time if you'd like to interview him. Ask any more questions? Okay, fellas, you get off the hook. Thank you very much. Michigan locker room's open until 4:35. We have Coach Beilein up here at 4:15. His legs were too big to get closer. I tried. Yeah. 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 I was going, okay. This final press conference is scheduled for 4:15. We'll probably start a couple minutes earlier. Coach Beilein is on his way. Just to alert the media in the back. You know what you can do? You can unplug me underneath here. And just pick it up. This time we're ready to begin our final session of the day. Happy to welcome Michigan coach John Beilein, the Wolverines, seeking their 16th trip to the Sweet 16 in school history. If successful, this would be the fourth time under Coach Beilein's, fifth time, I should say, under Coach Beilein's tenure. Without further ado, Coach, get your thoughts on tomorrow's game.
Yeah, I wish last night I had congratulated Montana on their season for being a mid-major coach for so long, so hard to get to that point. I think they really had a great team, but we just had one of our better defensive games of the year. So, but we got a great challenge with an opportunity right now with Florida. They got a great mixture of some really good talent, but some seniors who have had really great careers there. You know, they've had a lot of success in the postseason, and you know, they had a great win yesterday over what really is a Reno team that was in the top 10 earlier in the year. So really, got a great coaching staff there. One of my former players, Darius Nichols, is on their staff, and I'm probably as close to him as any of my former players. And I have a lot of them, and a lot of them are close to me. Darius is one of those guys. So it's going to be, I'm sure it's going to be a good game. The Florida people have done a great job and running a great program.
Questions for the coach? Back row, right side.
Coach, a lot has been said about Iggy throughout the course of the year. In addition to his precociousness for a freshman, he seems to play his best when the stakes are the biggest. Does he get enough credit for that?
You know, I was just asked that question. You know, one of his probably he followed a lot. Another Lithuanian from Toronto, right, was Nick Stauskas, and he reminds me a lot of Nick. How Nick just came into the stage and he embraced it all. You know, he loved to play in a game, and it was a bit of a stage for him. And so Iggy certainly has that. He will not be doing this to any players tonight, right? He usually does it sometimes to the crowd. He made a mistake there, but he is just a really good kid who looks at me every day and says, "I can't believe it." He's really he loves this part. He loves college basketball. He loves being part of Michigan.
Left side on the aisle.
In terms of setting up an offensive approach for this game, what's the biggest challenge of a team like Florida that really wants to throw a whole bunch of different looks at you? Coach White had mentioned that specifically throughout the week, and he showed it even during crunch time in the Nevada game.
Yeah, that is the challenge. You just said it. You know, sometimes they change defenses in the middle of a defense. You know, you throw the ball ahead in the zone, and they might go man. In the middle of it, so you got to play with our heads up. The shot clock is ticking, and you know last night we couldn't run a lot of stuff because they were pushing us down and icing us the whole game. And that there's only a few things you can do against that when you're in a ball screen, and you got to do it quickly. And we were able to do that. So we have to adjust, but they're going to try to. My thought is they're going to try to keep us off balance. If they saw the way we attacked the press yesterday, they'll probably press the heck out of us. And we got to be ready for a whole lot of things. And we do see that occasionally in the league, in our league, but it's still always new with new players.
Other questions for the coach? Go back and forth here. Left side, then right.
You mentioned, I asked you yesterday about Charles and his, development back, and you had said that when you play the 1-2-3, that you don't have a really lot of time to evaluate, what he needs to do to improve as he recuperates. But then you said that if you had that period of even a day or 2 days, that you could figure a better strategy out. Now that you even have this one day, what did you think that Charles can still do as he gets from that 90% level to probably something closer to 100?
I think he'll be more comfortable today with just the different things because we were trying to really pace him to get ready. But it's just a comfort level right now. If we're fortunate enough to win this game, then we can get more specific because we were just getting back to square one a little bit about, all right, putting him back in a ball screen, back doing some things that he's done well at times this year. So he's getting more and more comfortable every time he gets out there, and we need him on the floor for his defense and all the intangibles he brings to us. but he's as you saw yesterday, a really important part of our offense.
Coach, you talked a little bit about getting Charles involved, and Iggy's kind of a stalwart in the offense, but is it a point of emphasis at all to get Jordan more involved, or are you just going to take what the defense gives you, whatever matchups you have?
I mean, all those guys, we look at the matchups and who's guarding them and what we've seen from that. And then, we see it's tough to dial up 4 guys, right? It's really tough to do that. A lot of people play through 1, 2, or 3 players, and everyone else gets residual effect. But Jordan's one of the guys we'll choose at times, and depends a lot on the matchup or what style of play they have.
Second row on the left.
John, you and Izzo have had similar success in recent years. You're both going for win 30 this season, tomorrow, and in a conference that hasn't lost a game in this tournament yet. Can you talk about different coaching styles and different ways to get to the same end, and any reaction you had to what happened yesterday with Michigan State and Tom?
No, I think that Tom's record speaks for itself, how really good they've been. And we talk about this the whole time. In our great state of Michigan, I mean, we have 2 elite programs right within the state. That there's, if you look at especially the last decade, the number of Final Fours, the number of conference championships that we both have had in combination. Duke and North Carolina are the only ones even close, right? And the rivalry that we have. So we're both very different. I don't know enough about what he does in practice or whatever. I said I've never been an assistant of his or gone to a practice, obviously. So I don't know how our styles contrast. I do know our style, and it works, and his certainly does too.
Any other questions? If not, we'll let you go, Coach.
Okay,
Thank you very
thanks,
much.
everyone.
Best of luck tomorrow. Michigan locker room is still open for another 14 minutes.